Hey, what's going on, people? Welcome back to Small Couch Reviews. It's your boy Sam. First off, sorry if the camera is a little wonky at all. I'm using a different one. I don't have my normal setup available to me, but I don't think I'll be talking too long today with two reviews I'll be doing. I took a break from my Indian movie. I've been in my Indian movie bag, and hopefully I can get Jovi to watch some of these too, so we can talk about them. But I took a break to watch two movies that we're going to talk about. One of them is TOA, means Trash on Arrival, if you don't know. And the other one is the latest Shyamalan flick. So let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to start with Borderlands. I thought video game movies, I thought, we got to a certain standard, but I guess not. This is bad in all the wrong ways, and there are a lot of reviews that are going to tell you why this movie is bad. I'm going to try to keep it like high level. I don't want to go too deep into it because it's really just not even worth the time to talk about. Cate Blanchett, she stars as Lilith. From the video games. I'm sorry if you didn't know. Obviously it's based on the Borderlands video game. And just FYI, I've only played the first one, and I played Tales from the Borderlands Telltale game. I never played 2, 3, or the pre-sequel. So anyway, that's just my background. But I do know a little bit about the lore and how the game is, and this movie is just not like that at all. It has none of the charm. It's not at all funny, has none of the characters. And even the action of the game, the game is really you're building a bunch of different guns, and it's a fun time with co-op. Yeah, even the action is it's not great. There's really nothing here. Eli Roth, he's not good at what he does. I think we need to just admit that now, man. He's really just not. I've seen Hostel, and now I've seen this, and every other movie that I know he has made, I just know has not been great. So not to, maybe he just needs to find a niche, the same way I think Zack Snyder needs to, give up the pen and just stick to directing his action scenes, which I think are really good. Maybe Eli Roth needs to stick to, making sure that the bloody horror scenes look bloody and gruesome, because when it comes to writing and storytelling and narratives and character development and directing actors and visual effects, it's all bad. And this movie is the perfect example of it. Yeah, okay, so like I said, this movie, it stars Cate Blanchett as Lilith the Vault Hunter. She's been assigned a job to go to Pandora and find Tiny Tina. And joining her, there's actually like an all-star cast. It's Kevin Hart, you got Jamie Lee Curtis, Jack Black is in this, Gina Gershon, and Ariana Greenblatt, who I recognize from Ahsoka, among other things. But yeah, so they're all this ragtag group. They come together and they go on this adventure. So the movie fails as a video game adaptation. Obviously, it just captures none of the charm. Jack Black is Claptrap, and he is actually very bad. Bad actually isn't bad enough to describe it. I'm just gonna when I say bad, I mean the worst kind of bad there is. He's just very annoying. He's not funny. He adds no kind of levity to any, he's trying to add levity to moments, it seems, but it just fails. And I didn't laugh at all during this movie, which is hard to do. I mean, Kevin Hart, it seems like, is the only one who was really trying. And even him, he can be accidentally funny, but in this movie, he just wasn't. And I feel bad for everyone in this movie because all of them are great actors. I don't know how you have this cast and have such a dumpster fire of a movie. I really hope they were all paid well. This is something that's they shouldn't even want it on their resume. Speaking of, I usually don't listen to reviews before I do my own. I think a lot of people are like that. But I was listening to this other YouTuber in my friend's car, Dan Murrell. He was talking about this movie. So credit to him for just saying this, because I wouldn't have known this. But apparently one of the writers on this movie, had their name removed because they did not want their name to actually be associated with this movie. So it's written by Eli Roth and somebody named Joe. And this Joe person just doesn't exist. It's not their real name. Also, something else. This movie went through reshoots, which I did know about. And what did they reshoot? It couldn't have been the VFX. The CG in this movie is god awful. The acting is god awful. I don't know why you would waste money to reshoot and still release this. Just scrap it. They should just scrap this movie. I mean, we've seen it happen before, Batgirl. So, but I'm just saying, Hollywood, they're no strangers to doing this. This movie was not in a shape to come out. It's not a movie you should watch. That's all I'm gonna say. If I were to rate this movie, it'd get a 0. This is a 0 out of 5. This movie stinks. Stay away from it. It's not good. There are people who can go into a deep dive about how it doesn't really tie into the game and how the acting is bad and CG and all that, and people can rant on it. I'm not here for that. Movie stinks. Stay away. That's all I'm gonna say. Trap. I do want to talk a little bit more about this. So I saw this kind of. I mean, I wanted to see it, but I didn't really plan to go see it. If that makes sense. I kind of just was. I had free time and I went to go see it. So, in Shyamalan's latest, you've seen the trailers. Josh Hartnett stars as a serial killer called the Butcher, who is trapped in a concert venue with his daughter on the day that the FBI has decided to come catch him. Like, they knew he was going to be here. They set up a sting operation to come catch him. And because of the worst, or not worst, but the most unbelievable black person ever, Josh Hartnett finds out because this dude just volunteers all this information. Like, you see it in the trailer. There's a guy working at a merchandise shop, and he's like, yeah, I shouldn't really be telling you this, but there's this dude, the Butcher, and the FBI is here to catch him, and they set up this sting operation, and everyone's going to get checked. They're not going to let him go, and yeah, I mean, unrealistic. Which leads me, Shyamalan, the thing about him, seriously, every single one of his movies always intrigues me because the plot hooks me. Like, even just watching this trailer, I was like, huh. I mean, the first thing I thought was, well, what's going to be his twist? Because he always has a twist in his movies, but I'm like, well, you told me the twist. The serial killer is the guy we're following. That would, seem to be something you'd not want to put in the trailer, but whatever. But it's an intriguing plot. All his plots are intriguing. The thing with the dude is he has very bad execution sometimes. Sometimes it works. Although he hasn't really been batting or even 500 recently. I think the last movie of his I really liked was Split, and then like the first 30 minutes of Glass, and that was it. But yeah, anyway, all to say, this is one of those where it's a great thought, great premise, but the execution just falls flat, especially in the second half. So if I want to get my negatives out the way, I'll start with the fact that the movie is really just unbelievable. And I don't mean unbelievable by, the FBI would set up a sting operation at a concert venue to find one person. This movie actually does a good job of explaining how that came to be. So I can suspend my disbelief on that. There are just certain things that people are ignoring or people aren't saying or not realizing that, even turning off my brain, I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, somebody, if a stranger gets into a car with you, obviously, you're going to realize it's not your normal driver. Or like, if, the police are surrounding a vehicle and they know there's a bad guy in it, if the car door opens, I feel like people would be like, oh, hey, that's the guy who got out of the car. There's just a lot of things happening in the movie that I'm like, okay, this isn't adding up. And then it gets to the point where it's actually like not even just decision making, it's actually unbelievable, where someone gets from point A to point B. Someone is able to, get a hold of something without anybody noticing, and this thing they have is just, absolutely necessary to help them. I'm trying to be very vague here, I'm sorry. But like, there's just too many happy coincidences that seem to benefit or sometimes hurt our protagonist in Josh Hartnett. And those things, when it's one or two, you can kind of ignore. But when it keeps happening, especially in the second half of this movie, then you're like, okay, what am I watching? Speaking of the second half, the other negative, for the biggest sin this movie commits, the first, I'd say, hour of this movie where he's in the concert and he's trying to get out, that was thrilling. After that, it just falls into a predictable mess. Like I can't really think of any other word to say. It's just it's not entertaining. It's not fun. There are no twists. It's just you're kind of just like watching a slice of life, but not an interesting slice of life. You're just watching this dude go through the motions, and that's it. So that last like I think like 30 or 45 minutes, I'm sitting there waiting like, okay, when is this going to get exciting again? And it never really becomes as exciting as it was in its, I guess, let's say its first 60%. Now, getting to what I did like. Again, the first half of this movie was actually very solid. So we're following a serial killer, right? And if you want us to, follow him and worry about him, even though he's the bad guy, he has to be charming and interesting, and Josh Hartnett is all those things. I'm really glad to see the dude, back in movies. And then something that I didn't think about when I saw the trailers, he's a dad, and like he's a loving dad in this movie. So he has to make sure that his daughter gets out with him. If it was just him, right? I think he'd have a whole lot easier time escaping because he sees certain things and he's like, hey, why don't we go check this out? But then his daughter's like, well, that's a little weird. Why would we do that? And it's like, dang, yeah, man, you're right. You don't have an answer for it. It is weird that you'd want to go to this one part of the arena, or that you'd want to go check out this concession stand during the show. Like, it is weird that you're doing all this stuff, but he has to think about that because he needs to get her out because he actually does love his daughter. So I thought that added an interesting dynamic to it. I am going to go back to something that I hated because I forgot about this. There is something Josh Hartnett does. He's a serial killer. He's putting on this facade. When he puts on his, I guess, fake voice, his normal person voice, it's actually very annoying. He's like talking directly into the camera in a way that sounds so fake. It's so fake. Like, hello, human person. I am also human person. I am here with my daughter. We're having a great time at this show. Hopefully, her friends can join soon. Ha 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 ha. Like, there's one scene in particular when he's talking to another parent where I'm just like, is anybody directing this? Like, why? Why does he sound like this? I don't know if it was a creative choice to make it obvious to us that he's putting on a show, but I feel like anyone in that world should have seen that, people don't talk like this. But hey, that has been a common, complaint in Shyamalan movies, that people don't talk the way that they do in his movies. So who knows? Anyway, back to what I liked. So the other thing I liked, and the biggest surprise of this movie, Shyamalan's daughter, her name is Seleka. I want to make sure I'm saying that right. Hold on. Yes, her name is Seleka. So in the preview, you'll see she plays a character named Lady Raven. She's the person they're all coming to see at the concert. What was really impressive to me is I thought she was just going to be just like the person. He just put her in the movie to sing songs. Well, first off, she sings songs very well, but she also wrote all of these songs herself, and they're actually very, very good. So just kudos to her for that. But then she actually, in the second half of this movie, she carries a lot of it. She has a lot of speaking lines, which I was not expecting. And she's very good in the role. She shows fear and empathy and emotion, and the way she was just able to draw it out so quickly. I mean, it's not like the absolute best I've ever seen, but it's more than acceptable. And I thought she did a fantastic job, especially with this being like her debut. Kudos to her. She was a big part of the movie, and honestly, a kind of like, to me in particular, she was more of a, because she was a bigger surprise, she's more of a draw than even Josh Hartnett. And then something else I want to shout out, the actual like the way the movie is shot itself. I really like that. Um, in the first half, let me say that, because it's like we're kind of in Josh Hartnett's POV. We're always with him. So when he's in the crowd, we see the crowd around him. When he looks up at a section, we can't actually hear what's going on there, but we'll see police are just taking people away for some reason. He's looking at the stage. We see Lady Raven like as a concert viewer. It doesn't always zoom up on her face when she's singing. So I really like that they did that. It just kind of made the movie feel like more personal, like we were with him. So yeah, man, in the end, this is one where I think it definitely hit more than it missed, but the misses were noticeable, especially in the let's say the last 40% of the movie. But if it came on streaming, it's something I would watch again. It's not like I would totally ignore it. So I do think it's worth watching. So for Trap, I think this one lands squarely. I would give it a 3 out of 5. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did not see the first movie we talked about and waste your time. But if you did, let me know. And if you saw Trap, let me know what your favorite part of that movie was. Until next time, I'm out.